afternoon. So today is March the 16th, and this will be episode 53. Here we are in the year 2022. So Crystal, you just mentioned something. Could you repeat that now that I've got the recording going, please?
Yes, I'm trying to understand how to maintain focus on what's relevant in my life, especially concerning that there's so much now more information that's coming out about what's really going on behind the scenes, as opposed to what we're hearing on the news media. And then I can't listen to it all. It's like quadrupled or sextupled. The amount of information is almost exponential, I would say, in terms of the nefarious stuff that's going on. And so part of me is thinking the best I can do is possibly just listen, connect with my inner guidance, and then see where I'm being guided to go. But it's, there's a lot of distraction in wanting to mentally educate oneself at the same time as being connected with one's inner guidance. So I feel a push and pull, because those are two different forces for me, and maybe in some cases I'm guided to listen to something. So to know the difference,
That's a powerful, wonderful question and a place to be in. I was looking through Course in Miracles, and in the text, the first part of the book, there's a chapter 27, and the title of it is The Healing of the Dream. And to heal the dream, basically what we are experiencing today is the recognition that we have created a nightmare. Pretty much, we have made a total nightmare out of this human experience. And welcome, Dondra. Good to have you here with us. And so to offer my suggestions for that incredible question is that we have to look at things from two perspectives. Just as you said, when you're intuitively guided, to follow that, but then you're also getting a barrage of information from the outside world that is coming fast and furious, and even more is going to be coming because the floodgates have been opened for transformation. We do not have transformation without transparency. And for transparency to be a reality for humanity, that means we've got to talk about all the things that we've been hiding. So we've got to bring into the foreground what has been kept in secret. So we've got lots of steps that are in motion to take us to where it is that we all deep down in our hearts want to go. And that is to experience peace on earth. And peace on earth, interestingly enough, is just the beginning. When we have peace on earth and no more fighting, no more wars, no more secrets, no more lies, then we will feel safe to begin the process of creation, of manifestation, of imagination. All those things will happen. And it's simple to understand, because like little children, a little child is in the most imaginative place that they can be when they feel safe in their surroundings. So humanity has to feel safe in its surroundings, which means peace on earth, before we can really activate the imagination that will co-create beyond heaven on earth. It's going to take us into the experiences that we cannot even imagine today, because we're so stuck in survival mode. So when I look at chapter 27 from A Course in Miracles, and I look at this, the healing of the dream, the most important thing from that is that we have to understand that this is a dream. And that is where people get really stuck. Most people have no idea that we are in the mind of God, that we are literally characters inside of a dream. We are dreaming this up. Now, not to say that what is happening is not happening, but it is happening inside of a dream. And if we can get our mind wrapped around that as our reality, then we can begin to access ways to look at the dream from a place of peace, from a place where internally we understand what's happening. Because the only way that we can create this suffering that's why all these things are showing up, the war, whether it be what's happening in Ukraine and with Russia and the corruption in the US, well, around the world, and the so much is unsettled around the world. Not only do we have physical earth changes happening, floods and mudslides and earthquakes and volcanoes erupting, droughts happening. All of those things are happening inside of a dream. Wanting to know what that means is really the start of the empowerment that is necessary for each and every one of us to become a different person, a different being, while we are inside of a dream. Tell me if that makes sense, what I've just shared so far.
Well, from my perspective, I was taken back to my childhood when I just had I would have no resistance to imagining anything. I didn't feel threatened by anything. Okay, I was safe. I was safe in the environment of my family, but I just, even at school at a younger age, I felt free to dream, create my own reality, until the pressures of peers came to bear when I became a teenager and that. But I was taken back now to that time as an example of peace. That was a peace in my life where I could create and just imagine I was Superman and everything,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So I can imagine that possibility in a world of peace, where we can become like true children as adults, with the adult approach to life.
Yes. And, being an adult, all that means is that we bring a level of maturity to that childlike sense of wonder where all of the imagination and inspiration happens, because we do have to return to that child within, because it's the part of us that has no limits, and we've got to get back to that place. But the world is in a state that it is in today because all of us have forgotten to return to that childlike place of wonder. And for thousands of years, we have adults who think that because they are of a adult age, that they know better for everybody else, that they need to do things a certain way, and you can't be like a child. That's childish. You can't do that. So we have disconnected from our imagination in a very deliberate way. But when we begin to explore that we are in the dream, how do we heal the dream? The only way to heal the dream is to first heal our mind, is to first change our mind. In the Bible, in Romans, I never remember the chapter, but it says, and you shall be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So the mind needs to be renewed if we want to experience transformation on the outside, because transformation happens on the inside first. And that is why is this dream now a nightmare? And when we ask that question with sincerity, we can begin to see that it is a nightmare precisely because, one, we forgot this is a dream, meaning that if it's a dream, it's being imagined. And just as when we dream, it's pure imagination, it is meant to be pure imagination. And whenever it started, and I cannot tell you when it started, but whenever humans on this planet began to turn this dream into a nightmare, it happened because somebody thought that they needed to have power over somebody else. in feeling this sense of separation, that we're two separate people instead of one expression, or the essence of God expressing itself in all of the different ways that it's expressing itself in the dream to collaborate and co-create and play together, one began to believe that it was superior to another. And in this sense of, I know better than you, I'm right and you're wrong, we began to formulate the process of hierarchy. Who knows better than the other? And over thousands of years, when some thought that they knew better than the other, and they began to give themselves a certain level of power, sorry about my voice, in having a certain level of power over thousands and thousands of years, those with power thought that they could do whatever they wanted and the rest had to follow. So we fell into the nightmare the minute that we began to believe we were separate and special. Some were special and some were not. So today, as we see what is happening, we are seeing that some think that they have power over others. Some want to go to war and the rest doesn't want to go to war. Some think that they get to make the decisions that the rest have to abide by. So that separation and that hierarchy and that sense of somebody knows better than the rest has put us in the situation that we're in. So to begin to look at what is happening with the eyes that are aware about this hierarchy and look at it, we then need to ask ourselves, why did I give my power away to somebody else? How did that happen? Because we're literally having to take our power back. This is a process of reclaiming our sovereignty. This is the process of coming back to finding, well, am I really a victim to all of this, or am I a participant in this dream that turned into a nightmare? So the Course in Miracles is really clear. Every one of us is equal. Every one of us is powerful. Every one of us has contributed to falling asleep and creating the nightmare. That means every one of us has to pull our power back from the nightmare, remember that this is a dream, and then healing our minds, we then create what the Course says is a happy dream, where we can move forward to co-creating heaven on earth. And I know that's so esoteric, and it sounds so beautiful and so wonderful, but in practical, everyday terms, how do we do this? And there is only one way that I know, because there's only one way that the Course has taught me, and that is to shift my perception, to begin to change my perception about what's happening, receive the information that is coming to me, and then recognize it. Did our egos create this? Is this what our ego has made? Or is this what is coming from God within? Is this, the Course calls it, the Holy Spirit, or we could call it our Christ consciousness, and begin to discern between what is created by God, which is always going to be what is wonderful and loving, where we're all at peace and enjoying life, making it a happy dream, and what has been the ego's doing that has made all of this suffering that has brought us into the nightmare. So that peeling of everything, looking at it from those two perspectives, is the only way that will return us to our sanity. So continue in your dialogue, Christo, and share. You know that. I know you know that. I know that you know that we have our higher self, our lower self. But how are you applying that in your day-to-day life as you're watching this information? I know you asked me a question, but I'm asking you now one. How are you applying that in your day-to-day life? Because the answer to your question is going to show up in your sharing of how you are discerning in day-to-day life, what is of the ego and what is of God, what is of love and what is of fear.
Well, while you were sharing about creating, I can't remember what words you used, but what I interpret it as creating heaven on earth. while we are here is every time I go dancing, I have my moments where my joy and childlike part is there, and nothing else matters in those moments. And then I go off the floor and choose to dance again. I'm taking that energy with me, that connection, and that stays with me for a while, you know. And the memory thereof is always there to bring me back to that attitude, and I apply it also in my business, where there's always time to make a joke, to make fun of the events that are happening, not laughing at someone, but laughing at the circumstances, you know. And so it is pretty much part of my philosophy, but I get pulled off track often when with the aggro things that come up, with, you know, people coming and they're pointing fingers at you and you start defending. Before I take a deep breath and remind myself of the game, and then I can come back to the table differently. So I am doing my best to practice it, but it's a skill, and
It is.
I mean, which is why I'm enjoying your reminders that you are so powerful. Make it happen faster for me, you know.
Well, it is a skill. You're absolutely right. It is a skill. And when you have those moments when you're dancing, obviously when I'm dancing with you, there is a synergy, because two people are lost in that joy. And that is our natural self. That is what we're returning to, accepting as part of who we really truly are. And we are divine beings, and we have forgotten that. We have been conditioned to believe that we are just these robots that are reacting to life circumstances. And when we are just, excuse me.
May you be blessed.
Thank you. Thank you. When we are reacting to life circumstances, it's always going to be from a place of separation, from a place of protection, a place of manipulation. And there is absolutely no way for us to experience the shifting of the nightmare back into a happy dream until we recognize that we're not just these bodies, that we are consciousness, we are supreme intelligence expressing itself individually through each and every one of us. So the only way to change all of this is to remember truly who we are. And how do you remember who you are? You've got to enter into the place of that stillness, that quiet. Inside of this chapter 27, there's so many different sections. No way to be able to go through all of them adequately in one conversation. But here, there is one little section number 4, and the title of it is called The Quiet Answer. In quietness are all things answered, as is every problem quietly solved. In conflict, there can be no answer and no resolution, for its purpose is to make no resolution possible and to ensure no answer will be plain. Understanding that we have the ability to go into the stillness, to go into quiet, is something that most people have no idea is possible. I know for me, I didn't realize that in the quiet meditative places is where I could receive not only a clear answer, a clear guidance for me, but at the same time, that's when I began to realize that there was a quiet, peaceful place inside of me. And the more that I felt that quiet, peaceful place inside of me, the more that I wanted that to be the way life was outside of me. So we have to come within to bring it out and experience it in the world. And as we said earlier, children feel safe to imagine when they live in a peaceful environment. You know, children who grow up in war-torn countries, they can't really activate their imagination because they're in survival mode. So from a very young age, there are many children on this planet who have not tapped into that imagination on a consistent basis because they have been in survival. And today, as we are observing what's happening in the world, we are all now feeling that collective sense of survival, that collective sense of, oh my gosh, we're not safe anymore. And that is one of the traps of the ego, because it keeps us in the confusion. Are we going to be able to be okay? Who's doing what to whom? That's why the second question says, in conflict, there are no answers. So as we see this conflict in the world, we're never going to find the answer out there. We're never going to find the answer if we don't get quiet and go inside. So this is a journey of finding out, who are we? Who is the quiet one inside? Accessing that part of us is the journey, as you all know, of connecting with God within. It's the journey of recognizing that we are powerful divine beings who chose to enter into this dream of separation. And those who are waking up are remembering that we are here to shift the nightmare into a happy dream. So it's going to have to go back to coming inside and finding the aspect of us who can shift our mind and see it from God's perspective, not just the ego's perspective. I would like to ask Kat or Dondra, what are your thoughts around this? To add to the conversation. If you have something you'd like to add, I'd appreciate it.
Hi.
Hello.
It's like, why are there two of me here? What on earth did I do? I have a hard time getting on at all.
Don't worry about it. Don't let your mind go there. It's okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I really appreciated that conversation. Thank you, Christo. I'm somewhat relating it to experience I'm having now with my boyfriend and his experiences with his daughter and ex-wife, and he called me yesterday, and so it was like, we're looking for advice, and so it was so I just totally told him the truth about sometimes it's the best just to accept things as they are, and I love what y'all talk about, because it's like we can either choose, and I didn't say this to him, but no, myself knowing I can find it in myself to let go, which I explained last time, I think, how with family and stuff like that, I'm letting go more. And so we're either going to come from that fear or love. And he's deeply into fear. And so, not deep, well, pretty deep. So I just stand back and love him. I'm trying to come from, or I am coming from, a higher perspective. And something you said about being a child, and that's what, and looking at it from a child's point of view, like innocence. So I'm doing my best to empower him while I empower myself also, to keep truth, and to just, if he asks, to tell him the truth. And I feel like I've been quite a help to him, yet he's so far, he's not had this course and all this, but I'm so grateful for it, because it allows me to look at it, for me to accept what is, for me to just be present. And I agree with Christo too. There's so much confusion, and this, I'm switching from the John thing, but there's so much confusion, and in my mind too, because I intuitively I feel one way, and yet so much information I'm getting is not that. And but it's so dangerous, and well, that's a judgment. But
It feels that way. Right now, it does feel that things are dangerous because we are getting so much information from so many different areas, and there is an unsettling that is happening. But all of this is really moving us always to the same place, is to go inside where we can discern what is our truth versus what is not. And everybody has their own idea of what truth is. So when you're talking about talking to your boyfriend and you're telling him the truth, you're telling him your truth. You're sharing
right,
what you know is true for you. And that's part of the excuse me, part of what is happening to humanity is that we have been so conditioned to listen to what other people tell us is truth that we have forgotten how to listen to the truth inside of our own selves. So there is a shift that is taking place from moving out of what we've been told is the truth and following the truth that is the somebody in a place of power hierarchy higher up has decided is the truth. And we're coming to the very, very basic places of finding the truth inside of us. And as this section says, in quietness are all things answered. We have to go to that quiet place. And the world, the noise out in the world, the confusion out in the world is a reflection of the noise and the confusion inside of our own minds. And that takes an incredible amount of humbleness to begin to say to somebody, like in your case, of course, this applies for everybody, to say, I'm going to share my truth. I'm going to share my perspective, because we've got to get back to respecting and recognizing that every single one of us has had completely different life experiences that color our perspective. And what we are waking up to is the realization that those who wake up feel that they have a desire for the same experience. And that same experience is that peace on earth, is that peace inside. So there are those who are moving towards peace within, why they want it outside, and those who are still very much in fear and confusion inside, which is why they see confusion outside, why it's confusing to who do we trust, who's saying the truth, who's giving us the accurate information. And the world that is outside is always a reflection of what is happening inside. This is an incredible, incredible journey that we're on. Those of us who are waking up are witnesses to what is possible when we don't wake up. We're seeing the insanity of being in this dream. And this dream, again, has turned into a nightmare because we have lost our ability to all remember who we are, why we're here, what this is all about, which ultimately leads us to recognizing our equality, our oneness, our connection, because we're all children of the one same creative essence. Call it Father, Mother, God, source, whatever we want to call it. We are the physical expression of an intelligence that knows itself as one and wanted to have a happy dream, wanted to have an experience of different bodies, different, genders, different parts of the world, different cultures, different food, wanted to have an experience of what is different, to appreciate it and enjoy it. But we can't have that enjoyment. We can't have that Garden of Eden when the mind gets trained into believing that we're separate and that there's hierarchy and some know better than others. So we're just seeing the result of that misperception, which is why we have to correct it. And it starts as simple as you said, Kat, where you're sharing your truth with somebody else. and you can offer it and not take it personally if they accept it or not, because everybody is filtering every bit of information through layers and layers and layers of conditioning. The exact same thing is going to sound very different to a female that is conditioned to, grew up in poor circumstances. They're going to hear it different than a female that grew up in affluent circumstances. A male who grew up in a liberal type of a home, that kind of politics, is going to hear the same thing different than a male who grew up in a conservative kind of a political environment. Somebody who grows up in Europe is going to hear it different than somebody who grows up in South America. So we have filters and filters and filters by which we process information. And those filters are what have contributed to the nightmare, because we're not coming from the place where we're equal. We're coming from the place where we're different. And as you all know, because you guys are all students of truth, students of Course in Miracles, students of so many wonderful teachings that are helping us remember, not only are we equal, but we're not meant to be the same, which is a paradox. And we have lost our ability to respect differences when we run them through the filter of hierarchy. Because if different is only okay for the ones who are in charge and they decide what is it that is okay, it's going to be very, very, very uncomfortable for somebody. Hear my little grandbaby in the background. Must have just woken up from a nap. Somebody who is feeling like they're at the bottom of the totem pole, and their idea of how to do something is so different from the one at the top, and the one at the top says, nope, this is the only way we're going to do it. An example would be, let's say with medical system, where the one at the top says that this is the only way that you can do medicine, is you have to have insurance, and this is the way it's done, and these people have the money to do it. And the one at the bottom says, well, I don't have the funds for the insurance. Well, you're going to get penalized if you don't have insurance. And I'm making stuff up. Well, those are two different ways of looking at things based on two very different perspectives. Somebody who has the means and the power to make it so, and somebody who feels powerless and may not have the resources, but the desire is for the same thing, which is the well-being. But how we go about it is totally different. And the reason we are comfortable with haves and have-nots is because we have decided one is right and one is wrong. And while we play the game of right and wrong, we cannot accept differences as being okay and normal and part of the game of expressing ourselves, all equal creators expressing ourselves differently. So we have wars, we have disagreements, because we are not coming inside to find a place that we honor where we are the same, because we're playing the game of hierarchy and deciding what's right and what's wrong. And so many people feel powerless because we are seeing that very few get to make the decisions of what's right and wrong for the majority. So that's why there's so much confusion, because we innately know what would feel better for us. So welcome to Patricia and Jody. So glad to have you guys here. We are talking about, entered into a wonderful query from Christo. With so much information coming to us, how do we discern what is true, what is not? And in the Course in Miracles in chapter 27, the healing of the dream, there's a section that tells us that where to find the quiet answer. And it's always coming inside, coming within to connect with the source of the capital T truth and unplug from all the different truths that are out here, all the different perspectives based on different ideas, different levels of authority, different levels of power, different levels of knowledge, of culture, of experiences. So anyways, let me check this chat. Yay, Patricia, I'm so glad that you can do that. Now, we are going to be taking a little break from the classes. I probably am not going to do them for the next couple of weeks simply because I need to find a different format that makes these classes more accessible to people. So instead of just coming to the Zoom, I'm looking to see if it makes more sense to do them as a live on Instagram or as a live in YouTube. And I haven't figured that out yet. So stay in touch to hear when it is that we will return. But anyways, Christo, what are your thoughts? Since you posed such a powerful question. And again, the simple answer is the confusion is because we're not all operating from the same clarity.
One of my thoughts, wow. Yeah, I can't really add much to what you've said there. I mean, it's really profound accuracy of really tuning into yourself as much as possible. And that is the goal for me, is to try and be in that space 24/7, and to operate from that space, to apply heaven on earth, with my mind in heaven, or my consciousness in heaven, so that I can my actions can be purely directed. That's my goal.
What a beautiful goal. And from that goal, we would achieve that peace on earth. We could return to heaven on earth. But everybody has to have that same goal. And while we have different goals right now, the ego goals and our soul's goals, while those two are so different, we're going to continue to have these conflicts. Let me read a little bit more in this section from the course. And again, I'm in chapter 27, the healing of the dream. And the section is number 4, called the quiet answer. So let me just read what we have read before. It's only 2 sentences. In quietness are all things answered, and is every problem quietly resolved. In conflict, there can be no answer and no resolution, for its purpose is to make no resolution possible and to ensure no answer will be plain. A problem set in conflict has no answer, for it is seen in different ways. We were just talking about that. And what would be an answer from one point of view is not an answer in another light. Sentence number 5, you are in conflict. Thus, it must be clear you cannot answer anything at all, for conflict has no limited effects. Yet, if God gave an answer, there must be a way in which your problems are resolved, for what he wills already has been done. You know, if we just took that sentence alone, what God wills has already been done. In that sentence alone are all problems solved. If God wills and it is done, that means that somewhere within us is the ability to tap into God, the ability to tap into that essence of intelligence within us that is beyond our mental, in our brain, our mind, human intelligence, but it is the intelligence of life itself, the life force that has created all that is. If that life force desired for us to have an opportunity to experience ourselves as individuated aspects of itself, each and every one of us in oneness, expressing itself completely. And as the Course says, because our purpose is to be happy, if we understand that we were all created free with a whole different perspective, with a different idea of what it is that we love doing, what we want to do, bring to this planet, and we could pursue that, we would all be happy. So this one sentence, let me read it again, says, yet if God gave an answer, there must be a way in which your problems are resolved, for what he wills already has been done. To wake up is to find out what is God's will so that we can align with that which is already accessible to us right here, right now. Our equality is already done. It's a given. Why is the world operating with such division? Because we're listening to the voice for God, for the ego that blocks the voice for God. If our purpose is to be different, why are we not valuing all differences? Why are we making some things right and some things wrong? Because we're listening to the voice for the ego, not the voice for God that says we are all equal. Even in our differences, we are equally worthy. We're equally important pieces to this whole puzzle. And if our purpose is to be happy, why are we not happy? Because humanity is being kept by the ego mind in a state of fear. And we're witnessing right now the insanity, the conflicts that are happening. And it is only because the bulk of humanity, I know I did for the majority of my life, listens to the wrong mind, listens to the voice of the ego. All of that is programmed. All of that is made up. None of it is real. It feels real because we're experiencing the effects of it. But until we go to the cause of it, which is a voice that is blocking the truth of who we are, and how do we discover the truth of who we are? We got to go to the place where we get quiet. And in stillness, God can speak to us. But most of us cannot get quiet and listen to that voice inside because the conflict that is out there comes from in here. And we want to figure out how to deal with the conflict out there. You can't deal with the conflict out there. You've got to come in here and become one mind again. Come into your clarity, come into God. What would you have me do? What would you have me know? And it is quite a journey of getting still and knowing that we don't know much. We don't know what anything is for. The mind is so confused. And the simplicity of how to solve the world's problems is go back to listen to God. Listen to the creative source that wants to express itself through each and every one of us. It has a purpose, and it is to be happy. It already knows how to create that. But the only reason we don't feel that is because we are confused by listening to a different mind. And that mind that we listen to is the conditioned mind. So we have to question all of the conditioning. And it's always going to be the same thing. All suffering comes from conditioning that blocks the truth of who we are. So if we want to have that happy dream, we've got to return to that happy place inside. Reconnect with God in there. Let me read paragraph 2. Thus, it must be that time is not involved and every problem can be answered now. So if God already gave us in his will, the answer is already given, then the answer can always, always, always be found now. In this now moment, can I find peace? And when I find peace in here, now the peaceful me can deal with the conflict out there. And as what we're seeing right now with everything that's happening in the world, we can't go, no, not one of us can go and change what's happening out there, but each one of us can be a totally, completely different person by coming to God inside and then being the change we want to see in the world, being that loving, peaceful presence, that no matter where there is conflict, you can be a presence of peace. You can be totally grounded. But how do you do that? You've got to get clear about who created you. You know, Course in Miracles is very, very, very clear. And one of the things that my ego had a really hard time listening to with the Course is when the teaching said, there's only one difference between us and God. And one difference only. I thought I was going to get a list of 47,000 things that are different between us and God, but there's only one thing that is different. God created us. We didn't create ourselves. Other than that, we're exactly the same because there's only one mind. We're using the same creative power, but our creative abilities have been, I'm going to say, They haven't been shrunk. They haven't been stopped. We are just not utilizing that creative ability to express and extend. Our ability to create has been suppressed, and we keep looping around in the same stuff and the same information, the same lack of worth, feeling small, feeling powerless. So we keep like a hamster on a wheel, going around in circles, expecting a different result, which is why it's insane to listen to the ego. But we are exactly like God, because God created us in its image as itself. So the only way out of the insanity is to get to know what is our sanity, our sane place. Where do we find that? And that's to come inside into the quiet place and listen for that information, listen for that guidance that wants us to be happy. And once we decide, you know what, the outer world, it can have all of its conflicts, but I am not part of that. I am the creator of my own reality, and I want to create with God. I want to create with a part of me that has me be happy. Well, that's where the work is. And I know, because I've got a daughter, I've got a grandson, and they have experiences that are part of my reality, and they see things differently. My grandchild sees everything as, it's a playground. Everything is to be played with and to be put in his mouth and to be enjoyed. He is pure source expressing itself and just wants to do what he wants to do. The only time he throws a fit is when an adult wants to take him out of what he wants to be doing. That's the only time he throws a fit. So as long as he feels like playing, he wants to play. But if somebody thinks he needs a nap and he still wants to play, he's not going to be happy. He's expressing himself. Well, then we have a mom, my daughter, who has her mind, has all of the concerns and the beliefs that it has about the way that things should be done to keep him safe, to, how is he going to be educated? How's he going to be taken care of for his well-being, his health? So she's living in a dream. Her mind is filled with what moms should do. Writer's mind is filled with what baby feels like doing that's going to be fun. Grandmother's mind is filled with, oh my goodness, how do I not put layers on this child like I did on his mother, so that I can assist and support him in always expressing himself, while I know that with my daughter, she's operating with beliefs about what mother should do that I taught her, because it's what I did when I was, the mother figure, dealing with my child. So from my perspective, everything makes perfect sense. We will all be happy if from the get-go we are all raised knowing the truth of who we are, having parents who are aware of the truth of who we are, and they remind us of the truth of who we are, that we're all equal, that we are all free to express ourselves in whatever feels natural, so that the artist can be an artist, and the person who wants to be a farmer can be a farmer, and the one who wants to run a business can run a business. It's inside of us. God wants to express uniquely through each and every one of us. But we can't express ourselves if we are taught to suppress ourselves. No, you can't do that because you're supposed to do this. That confusion between what naturally wants to emerge and express and what we're told that we are supposed to do, that causes the suppression of our innate knowingness, creates inside of us a very divided self. That is the conflict within that we see out there. We want world peace, but somebody wants to drop a bomb. We want to have well-being, but somebody is polluting the water and creating health to, our health to not be optimal. We want to express ourselves and bring our intelligence to the world, like my little grandson. He's showing me things, but the world wants to teach him, wants to educate him in the ways of the world. So there is an energy that wants to express, there's an energy that wants to suppress. That confusion exists in all of us because we know internally what feels good and what feels natural and what allows us to feel happy. and then what we're supposed to do to follow the rules and make sure that we do it the way those in authority think that we should do it, so that we get to feel safe. So we have traded the freedom of expression for the need for safety. And right now we are seeing a lot of courageous souls who are choosing freedom over safety and are not going to stop. And because they know that in order to be fully happy, they have to be free to express themselves. And yeah, back to your original comment, Christo, there's a lot of information coming out that is helping us to see all of the ways that we have suppressed the divinity that exists in each and every one of us. And to be able to recognize that we are the creators of this dream, we need to remember how powerful we are, created in the image of a creator to create, conditioned to suppress that creativity. Only one way to get back to that is the studies that we do, what we would call self-help in the beginning, that then turns into remembering the true self that we are, the higher self, the God self, the Christ itself, whatever you want to call it. Let me read sentence number 2 in paragraph 2, sentence 2 and 3. And let's see how far in this paragraph we get. Yet it must also be that in your state of mind, solution is impossible. Well, a conflicted mind is never going to come up with a solution. Therefore, God must have given you a way of reaching to another state of mind in which the answer is already there. Stop listening to the ego and go into the state of mind of God. Go into that place within that knows these answers. Such is the holy instant. It is here that all your problems should be brought and left. Here they belong, for here their answer is. And where its answer is, a problem must be simple and be easily resolved. The holy instant. This is like the holy grail of the Course in Miracles. The holy instant is the instant that we have a shift in perception and we experience a miracle. And the miracle is, I'm listening to God and not the ego. That's the miracle. I'm listening to the part of me that knows the truth, that will be expressing itself no matter what, that wants to be free and will not seek for safety outside of myself and play it safe and avoid getting in trouble. That part of us that wants to be free is where all the pioneers come from. It's where all the courageous beings that are speaking up today is coming from, because there is a correction happening. So the 8 billion people out there that are going through this gyration, it's a representation of the gyration that's happening inside each and every one of us. We know deep down inside what feels good, and we know deep down inside what feels true. The outside is giving us mixed messages, telling us that what is true is this thing that doesn't feel good, or telling us that what is false is what we should follow, but inside, or we shouldn't follow, but inside, what they might be saying is false actually feels like that's what is true for us. So there is a confusion. Course in Miracles says that the world the ego has created is upside down and inside out, which means that there's a lot of work to learn to discern, to learn what is true and what is false. But you have to be able to feel it inside, because that's where you know you have found the place of peace in that holy instant that you listen to God inside, not the ego. You have come to the right place. And I don't use the word right as in right or wrong, but the only place where you will find your peace. And one that is awake recognizes that if I'm at peace here, whatever's happening out there cannot affect my inner peace. What's happening out there is the expression of the condition of the world, that then I can bring my peaceful self into it and inspire whoever's meant to be inspired, and aggravate whoever's going to get aggravated if you're at peace and they want you to be angry and upset and siding with them and being part of their bandwagon. Sentence number 7 says, and where its answer is, a problem must be simple and be easily resolved. So if the answer is inside, and we know that that's where we get the answers intuitively, we know that that's where it is, then we must begin to trust that we're given the solution to the problem. It will be solved, but we have to be willing to trust that answer. And most of us don't like the answer because the answer is too simple. Be at peace. Be at peace and know that you can withdraw your energy from that crazy world. You can pull it back in here. And when we come back in here and we remember that we're the dreamer of the dream, now we don't spend time trying to change the outer world. We spend time remembering what we prefer. And from that place of knowing what we prefer, we give rise to the happy dream that we then will connect with the people who want the same thing. And vibrationally, we will be connected. We will come into synchronicity and find one another. But the confusion out there in the world is because everybody's operating at different frequencies. We need to find the frequency that matches what we know connects with the result, the answer that is felt inside. Then it goes on to say, sentence number 8, so it must be pointless to attempt to solve a problem where the answer cannot be. And the answer is not going to be out there. Yet, just as surely, it must be resolved if it is brought to where the answer is. How many teachings, how many teachers do we need to tell us the same thing for thousands and thousands of years? The answer is within. Connect with God within. Why do we not come within? Because we've been taught that we need another book, we need another drink, we need another job, another promotion, another chunk of money to be happy. So we don't know to come inside. And then when we do learn to come inside, we don't know that we have to listen between two voices. So we're learning. We're gaining the information that is helping us become more self-aware. And where is all the conflict? Inside of us. And if it's inside of us, it gets projected out there because our conflicted self goes out into the world. I was a conflicted mother who forgot that the answers were in me. So I never thought that the answers were in my child. I wanted my child to hear the answers that were coming from my mouth, not the ones that were coming from inside of them. So I, in my conflicted state of mind, taught my children to be conflicted. So there's a lot of peeling back of layers and layers and layers, and get to the place that we really remember how powerful we are. We didn't get conflicted and it just happened that way. We got conflicted because we knew we were entering a dream state. We knew that we were leaving the all-knowing consciousness where we are one with God, entering into a separate expression of God, uniquely as me, as you, uniquely as a tree, as a bird, as a rock. We knew there is a knowingness that the all that isness gets to express itself in the infinite possibilities that it can. So we have to at some point remember that we're only conflicted because we chose to enter the planet of insanity. And when you recognize that we enter the planet of insanity, where everybody that was there before us is insane, conflicted, then we must be the ones who choose to not be conflicted anymore, return ourselves to our sanity, and then be an example of that sanity. Not let the outer world inform you of who you are, but you know who you are and inform the outer world that you're not conflicted, that you're not insane anymore. How do you do that is the magic question. And there's only one answer. In the holy instant, choose to only listen to the voice for God. But to do that, you must first believe that the voice for God is in you, not out there anywhere, in you. And how do you know you're listening to that voice? You will feel peace, because that which is one with all that is not in conflict with itself. And that's where we must return. The quiet answer is in the quiet place. And it's there available now. The answer is there now. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And that gave us 2 paragraphs inside of that quiet answer. And remember, for the next couple of weeks, we will not be meeting through the Zoom. I will inform everybody when we have the new platform, the new way for me to be able to get this message, because I'm hearing sources saying, make this more available to people, and through Zoom is not the best way. Unless I'm using something to guide people to Zoom, then of course that would work. But I haven't done that. I've got just a small group of people who were here originally, and I keep promoting to them, and it's not expanding the group. If anything, it's contracting. So I've got to do my part and learn how to do the marketing side. Crystal, thank you so much for activating that question. I would love to hear if anybody got any nuggets from this share from this section, the quiet answer inside of chapter 27, the healing of the dream. Did you get a nugget that you're taking with you? And then we will complete our gathering. Just unmute yourselves.
Hi, it is something that I continuously work with, is going in and getting that answer and going inside. So I don't know, in this life, maybe it's like it'll always be there to do.
Well, yes, it'll always be there in every lifetime. It's always there to do, to come inside and find the answer. But the important thing, Dondra, that we keep forgetting is that we and the Creator are one. So when you're coming inside to listen to your answer. What answer do you want? Which answer has you feel most at peace? Because it's really not God talking to you. It's you listening to the God that you are.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And if the God that we are wants to be expressed differently, there would be no need for war. There would be only need for tolerance of differences. There wouldn't be a need for making anybody have to give up what they prefer to do. But we are so divided externally because we're not united internally.
Okay, it takes me back to where you've got to be at peace first, period.
Yes.
Before that's priority.
Priority, absolutely. Because once you are at peace, you can hear your own desires, the God in you wanting to express itself in the way that is most joyful. And that's why our purpose is to be happy. And that's to express what brings us the most joy. Like Crystal said earlier, he experiences so much joy on the dance floor. And if you want to be expressing yourself, you need to learn, why are you not expressing yourself? And we're always going to come back to conditioning. We've been conditioned to suppress our joy and follow the rules by those who thought that they knew better than we did. So we can't find that joy in here until we understand, how did we lose it? And not to go blame those who raised us and the institutions that told us what we were supposed to be and do and have, but to acknowledge that we have fallen into that trap. And how do you get out of that trap? Remember that you chose to come to planet Earth, where things are crazy, to find your sanity by not doing what you are being told from the outside, but by returning to what feels like your truth on the inside.
Thank you.
Thank you for your share. Thank you for your share. Anybody else? If not, we will just complete. And I thank you all so much for joining us and being part of this. So good to have you here, Patricia and Jody and Kat and Christo and Dondra. Thank you so much. And like I said, give me a couple of weeks and I will let you know how we will reconnect. So have a magnificent rest of your day, and remember the holy instant. Come meet yourself inside. That's the voice of God, the voice of love, the voice of peace, the voice of truth. You meeting you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.